In the shadows of history, among the tales of conquerors and builders, there exists a darker record of men whose cruelty exceeded the bounds of human imagination. We often hear of tyrants who used the sword or the rope, but there was one ruler whose name became synonymous with a much slower, much more agonizing fate. Imagine a public square, a massive bronze cauldron, and a fire stoked until the liquid inside reached a screaming roar. This isn't a myth or a horror movie. This was the preferred method of execution for the man they called the Boiler King. Today, we are diving into the terrifying true story of King Phalaris and the Brazen Bull, a tale of a man who turned the sounds of human agony into a musical performance. The setting is the 6th century BCE in the sun-drenched city of Akragas, on the coast of Sicily. At the time, Akragas was one of the most beautiful and wealthy cities in the Greek world, but its beauty masked a regime of absolute terror. Phalaris had seized power through a bloody coup, and he knew that to keep it, he needed to ensure that no citizen would ever dare to whisper a word of dissent. He didn't just want to kill his enemies, he wanted to break their spirits. Enter Phalaris, a master craftsman and sculptor with a dark spark of genius. Seeking to win the king's favor, Phalaris arrived at the palace with a gift that would haunt history for millennia. It was a life-size statue of a bull, cast entirely in gleaming bronze. On the outside, it was a masterpiece of art, a symbol of power and strength. But the bull was hollow. On its back was a heavy latch, and inside was a chamber just large enough to hold a grown man. Phalaris explained the mechanism to the king with terrifying pride. He had designed a complex system of internal pipes and resonators in the bull's snout. When a fire was lit beneath the belly of the bronze beast, the person inside would begin to roast. As they screamed in their final moments, the acoustic pipes would transform their cries of pain into the low, haunting bellow of a real bull. The smell of burning flesh was even addressed. Incense was placed in the nostrils so that the bull would breathe out fragrant smoke instead of the stench of death. Phalaris was a man who appreciated cruelty, but he was also deeply cynical. He looked at the inventor and felt a twisted sense of irony. He told Phalaris that if the invention truly worked as he claimed, the inventor himself should be the one to demonstrate it. Under the guise of testing the acoustics, Phalaris ordered Phalaris to climb inside. As soon as the craftsman was through the hatch, the king locked it from the outside and ordered the fires to be lit. As the bronze grew red-hot, the court stood in a silence that was quickly broken. From the mouth of the statue came a deep, musical roar. The pipes were working perfectly. Before Phalaris could die, Phalaris had him removed from the bull, not out of mercy, but because he didn't want the masterpiece to be polluted by a commoner's death. Instead, he took the half-roasted man and threw him off a cliff. For 16 years, the Brazen Bull became the center of life in Akragas. It wasn't hidden away in a dungeon. It was placed in the center of the city as a permanent reminder of the king's reach. Phalaris used it for everyone, political rivals, debtors, and even those he simply found boring. He would host lavish banquets while the bull roared in the background, treating the sounds of execution like a dinner show. The psychological toll on the city was immense. People lived in a state of constant vibrating fear, knowing that one wrong word could lead to the cauldron or the bull. What people often don't realize about Phalaris is that he wasn't just a mindless brute. He was a highly educated man known for his letters and his patronage of the arts. This makes his cruelty even more chilling. It wasn't a product of madness, but a calculated choice to use art and engineering as tools of absolute subjugation. He turned the concept of the human voice into a mechanical instrument for his own amusement. But as history often proves, a reign built entirely on fire, and bronze cannot last forever. The very fear that Phalaris used to control his people eventually curdled into a desperate collective rage. In 554 BCE, a nobleman named Telemachus led a massive uprising. The citizens of Akragas, no longer afraid of the bull because they were more afraid of living under Phalaris, stormed the palace. The ending of Phalaris' story is a classic example of poetic justice. The angry mob seized the king and dragged him to the very instrument of torture he had cherished for nearly 2 decades. The Brazen Bull was wheeled out one last time. Phalaris was forced inside the hatch, the fire was stoked to its maximum intensity, and the city watched as their tyrant finally provided the music himself. The bull roared for the last time as the man who loved to boil others alive was consumed by his own creation. After his death, the bull was reportedly thrown into the sea to cleanse the city of its memory, though some legends say it was taken to Carthage as a trophy of war. Regardless of where the physical object went, the legend of the Boiler King remains one of the most potent warnings in history. It reminds us that when power is decoupled from humanity, and when creativity is used to engineer suffering, the result is a monster that eventually devours its own creator. Next time you look at a beautiful piece of bronze art, remember the city of Akragas and the bull that turned screams into songs. It is a reminder that the thinnest line separates civilization from the most boiling depths of human cruelty.